All right, what up everybody and welcome to the show. Today, we're diving into something that's gonna get the people going. We're talking about legends, man. Icons. The absolute titans of the gridiron. We're on a journey through the hallowed halls of NFL history. A pilgrimage to honor the absolute best of the best. This ain't about who had a good season. This is about who defined an entire organization. Who became the face, the soul, the beating heart of a city and its team. It's a massive undertaking, a monumental task, but somebody's got to do it, right? Every franchise has a legend. Today, we honor the greatest player ever to wear each team's colors. This is the Mount Rushmore of Mount Rushmores, but instead of one mountain, we're building 32 of them, one for each and every team in this beautiful league. From the sun-soaked fields of Arizona to the frozen tundra of Green Bay, we're leaving no stone unturned. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, I already know what's coming. The comment section is about to be an absolute war zone. And honestly, I'm here for it. This is what it's all about. Passionate debates, defending your guy. So as we go through this list, I want you to get those fingers ready. Let me know who you think the GOAT is for your team. Did I get it right? Am I a complete stooge? Light it up down below. Let's get this thing started. Let's go. We're kicking things off in the desert with the Arizona Cardinals, and for me, this one is an absolute no-brainer. It's Larry Fitzgerald, Larry Legend. The man is the epitome of class, consistency, and loyalty in a league where those things are getting harder and harder to find. Next up, we're flying down to Atlanta, Georgia, and we're talking about a guy who brought a level of swagger and electricity that the league had never seen before. We're talking about primetime himself, Deion Sanders. This wasn't just a football player, folks. This was a cultural phenomenon. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens, a franchise built on a specific identity. Tough, hard-nosed, intimidating defense. And the man who was the heart, soul, and fire of that identity for 17 seasons? Number 52, Ray Lewis. We're heading up to Buffalo now, home of one of the most passionate, loyal, and table-smashing fan bases in all of sports, and the quarterback who led them through their golden era has to be the guy. It's Jim Kelly. Toughness, that's the word that defines Jim Kelly, down to Carolina, and we're talking about a player who played with a fire and a chip on his shoulder the size of a boulder, Steve Smith Sr. At 5'9", he was often the smallest guy on the field, but he had the heart of a lion and played like he was 6'5". Now we journey to the Windy City, Chicago, a franchise steeped in history and defensive legends. But the greatest bear of all time? It's not even a debate. It's sweetness. Walter Payton. The man was a football-playing artist. Let's head over to the Queen City, Cincinnati. The Bengals. Now this one's tough because you've got guys like Ken Anderson, Boomer Esiason, and now Joe Burrow making a massive case. But for me, the greatest Bengal ever is a guy who played a position that doesn't get the glory but demands respect. It's the big fella, number 78, Anthony Munoz. To Cleveland we go, a franchise with a rich and storied history. And when you talk about the greatest Brown of all time, you're talking about a man who might be the greatest football player of all time, period. Jim Brown. This dude was a force of nature. All right, let's talk about America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. This is a tough one. You've got Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, Michael Irvin, Larry Allen, a whole galaxy of stars. But the guy who holds the NFL's most sacred rushing record has to be the pick. It's Emmitt Smith. Let's ride up to the mile-high city, Denver, Colorado. For the Broncos, there's only one answer. The guy's name is on the stadium. It's John Elway. For the longest time, Elway was known as the guy who could get you there but couldn't win the big one. Heading over to Detroit, Michigan, the Lions. This one hurts a little bit because the greatest player in their history was so good it's almost mythical. But he never got the team success he deserved. It's Barry Sanders. I don't think we'll ever see another running back like him, ever. Let's go to Titletown, USA, Green Bay, Wisconsin. This is a blue blood franchise with a ton of legends. Star Hudson Rogers, but the guy who resurrected the franchise from the dead and made Green Bay relevant again was number 4, Brett Favre. We're going down to Houston, Texas now. So this is a relatively new franchise, but they've had a player who was, for a stretch, just the most dominant defensive force in the entire league. It's J.J. Watt, This dude was an absolute game wrecker. Now we head to Indianapolis, a city that was completely transformed by one man, the Sheriff Peyton Manning. When Peyton was drafted, the Colts were, kind of an afterthought. He turned them into a perennial powerhouse and made Indianapolis a football city. Let's go down to Duval County, Jacksonville, Florida. For a long time, this was a tough one. Fred Taylor had a great case, but the man who was the franchise's first ever draft pick, their first true cornerstone, and now their first Hall of Famer, has to get the nod. It's the big man, Tony Boselli. Let's head to Kansas City, home of the loudest stadium in the world and some incredible history. You've got Len Dawson, Derek Thomas, Tony Gonzalez, absolute legends. But what we are witnessing right now is something special. It might feel early, but it's already undeniable. The greatest chief of all time is Patrick Mahomes. Time to talk about the Raiders. Commitment to excellence. A franchise with a mystique and a roster of renegades and legends. Howie Long, Tim Brown, Ken Stabler. The list is long, but the guy who had one of the most iconic runs in Super Bowl history and was a complete football player gets my vote. It's Marcus Allen. Let's head back to Cali and talk about the Chargers. Junior Seau is an icon, a legend, and his case is incredibly strong. But the offensive force of nature that was LaDainian Tomlinson is just impossible to ignore. LT was, for a period, the best running back in the league and one of the most complete backs the game has ever seen. Staying in LA, let's talk about the Rams. This is a franchise with history in Cleveland, Louisiana, St. Louis, and then back to LA. You've got Deacon Jones and the fearsome foursome, Marshall Faulk, and the greatest show on turf, and now Aaron Donald. But the guy who burst onto the scene with a style and dominance that was totally unique was Eric Dickerson. Let's go down to South Beach, Miami. The Dolphins have the only perfect season in NFL history, but the greatest player to ever wear the aqua and orange is a guy who, never won the big one. It's Dan Marino, number 13. Marino possessed the quickest release the game has ever seen. Let's head up north to Minneapolis, Minnesota. The Vikings have had some incredible offensive talent. Randy Moss, Adrian Peterson, Chris Carter. But the franchise's identity for its most successful era was built on defense, the Purple People Eaters, and the most dominant player on that legendary defensive line was Alan Page. We're off to Foxborough, Massachusetts, the New England Patriots. Is there anything that even needs to be said here? This is the easiest, most obvious, most slam dunk pick on the entire list. It's Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr., the greatest of all time. Let's go down to the Bayou, New Orleans, Louisiana, the Saints. A franchise that for decades was known as the Aints. And then, a 6-foot-tall quarterback, discarded by his old team after a career-threatening shoulder injury, came to town and changed everything. Drew Brees. Let's head to the Big Apple, New York City, the Giants. A storied franchise with a ton of options. Eli Manning, Frank Gifford, Michael Strahan. But there's one player who completely changed the way the game of football is played. Lawrence Taylor, LT. We're staying in the same stadium but switching teams. The New York Jets. This franchise has been searching for a savior for 50 years, and it's because the shadow of their greatest player looms so large. Broadway Joe Namath. He was more than a football player. He was a rock star, a cultural icon who transcended the sport. To the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia, the Eagles, a city that loves tough, hard-nosed players. Brian Dawkins embodied that spirit perfectly. But the most dominant player to ever wear midnight green was the Minister of Defense, Reggie White. Let's go to the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Steelers are another blue blood franchise with an embarrassment of riches. Lambert, Bradshaw, Polamalu, Harris, the list is endless. But the dynasty of the 1970s was built on a foundation of steel, and the first and most important piece of that foundation was Mean Joe Green. Heading out to the Bay Area, San Francisco, the 49 ERs, home to another incredible dynasty with legends like Joe Montana and Steve Young. But the greatest 49 ER, and arguably the greatest non-quarterback to ever play, is Jerry Rice. The word GOAT gets thrown around a lot, but for the wide receiver position, there is no debate. It's Jerry. Let's fly up to the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Washington. The Seahawks of the 2010s had the Legion of Boom and Marshawn Lynch, but the original Seahawk legend, the guy who put the franchise on the map, is Steve Largent. He wasn't the biggest, he wasn't the fastest, but he was tougher than a $2 steak and had the most reliable hands in the league. Down to Tampa Bay, Florida, the Buccaneers. Yes, Tom Brady came here and won a Super Bowl, and his case is strong. But for sustained, franchise-defining excellence, you have to look at the defensive side of the ball. The greatest Buccaneer of all time is Derrick Brooks. Let's go to Nashville, Tennessee. The Titans. This franchise has two distinct eras, the Houston Oilers and the Tennessee Titans. Steve McNair has a huge case as the heart and soul of the team. But the workhorse, the bell cow, the guy who carried the load during their most successful run, was Eddie George. We're finishing our journey in the nation's capital, Washington. A franchise with a proud history and many legends, like Sammy Baugh and John Riggins. But for sheer longevity, speed, and sustained excellence, the pick is Darrell Green, the ageless wonder. And there you have it. 32 teams, 32 legends. What a trip down memory lane, huh? From the gunslingers to the workhorses, the defensive titans to the offensive magicians, the NFL's history is just littered with absolute studs. These are the guys who didn't just play the game, they defined it. They built franchises, they inspired cities, and they created moments that will live on forever in football folklore. It's an honor just to be able to sit here and talk about these incredible athletes and what they meant to this league. Now the fun part begins. I know for a fact I probably just made some of you incredibly happy and some of you incredibly angry. That's the beauty of sports. So I'm officially turning it over to you guys. Get down in those comments and let me have it. Who did I nail? Who did I completely whiff on? Give me your pick for your team's GOAT and defend your guy. Thank you all so much for watching and for coming on this journey with me. If you had a good time and want to see more deep dives into the legends of the NFL, do me a huge favor and smash that like button. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We're just getting started here, folks. We appreciate every single one of you. Until next time, cheers.